American pilot struggles to maneuver a United States military cargo plane across a forested territory. A group of crows covers the glass in front of the plane, tampering with the pilot's vision with their sudden attack. Suddenly, the cargo plane engine starts to burn, making the passengers experience turbulence and then crash down moments later. Military trucks containing numerous soldiers drive along a dark, foggy German Black Forest. Seeing how dangerous the place may be, the truck stops as the soldiers check the parameters. Sergeant Brewer orders his men to investigate upon departure in the vehicle. Upon hearing the arrival of a new military truck, the soldiers point their guns to disarm the unknown person. As Major Johnson exits the vehicle, he calms them down and announces their presence. Major Johnson sends his bravest soldiers to locate the missing plane to retrieve essential materials from the cargo plane. The soldiers are now deployed in the Black Forest to track the essential materials from the cargo plane. The soldiers carry a boat that they can use to cross the river. Meanwhile, Major Johnson talks privately to Captain Rice to release his orders. The soldiers now travel through the river while a magical crow resting on a tree branch evacuates when it sees the invaders' arrival. The soldiers continuously paddle through the river to finally reach their destination and accomplish their dangerous mission. Upon reaching the land, Sergeant Brewer releases his order to maximize the workforce in the forest. Major Johnson is in his office while he reviews the images and written information in his hand. Fryer is a surveyor who is summoned to Major Johnson's office as he orders him to test his abilities in deciphering the recorded messages from the recorder. When the radio operator slows down the audio, Fryer tells Major Johnson about hearing the Tree of Life. The battalion sent to the forest discovers a flag containing the swastika sign. The soldiers see the Nazi soldiers hanging upside down from the forest trees. One of the soldiers cuts down the rope wrapped around the trees. The bodies fall to the ground. The soldiers discover ancient magical symbols along with the crash site till Walsh notices a telescope-like tool near the root of a tree. On the other hand, Taft sees a crow's feather in the hand of the victim, but Sergeant Brewer tells him to drop it off. Suddenly, someone from the forest showers them with bullets, and German soldiers attack them. The shootout eliminates the German soldiers at once, giving the American soldiers an advantage during the battle. The encounter costs the lives of the German soldiers, but the opposing team captures a German prisoner that they may use to investigate further. Afterward, the soldier who died in the encounter was buried and was given a military salute before they left. The American soldiers bring the prisoner and interrogate the German captive immediately. When they receive no response, the soldiers quickly left to investigate the site further. As the soldiers delve deeper into the forest, they discover a lighthouse where the troop immediately surveys the area. Upon checking, Rucker sees Hexa baths the naked Stria. Instead of leaving immediately, Rucker sneaks out and watches her with lust in his eyes. Rucker's comrade asks him to leave immediately, but Rucker, a maniac, continuously peeks into Stria's sexy body. Moments later, Stria and Hexa look back and catch the sneaky Rucker. Upon discovering that they have been caught, Rucker and his comrade immediately leaves. As they finally go down to rest, Rucker and his comrades devour her body with their sensual admiration. Unknowingly, Rucker is followed by Stria to lure him into her trap. On the other hand, Walsh marks a cross sign in a tree. Sergeant Brewer orders his men to continue their journey, so the troop goes back in, checking the forest. Rucker and Captain Rice seriously converse as they stride along the dangerous forest. Then, Sergeant Brewer tells his soldier that they have been lost in the Black Forest, and the compass rotates in different directions. Walsh interferes and tells them that there is something wrong with their journey. So, Sergeant Brewer asks his soldiers to secure the vicinity where Rucker and Walsh are appointed. The two go in two different directions, where Stria will soon lure Rucker. Rucker goes deeper in searching the forest while Sergeant Brewer calls on the radio to inform their quarters. While Rucker checks the forest, he hears some alluring and melodic voice of Stria. Rucker follows her voice and then sees the gorgeous Stria waiting for him. The girl slowly walks in his direction, seduces him, and slams him to the nearest tree as she kisses him aggressively. The two start becoming touchy till their lip-locking results in lovemaking. The radio of Sergeant Brewer receives a message from the struggling Captain Rice, who is struggling to escape his unfortunate situation. The sergeant calls him repeatedly till Captain finally tells his whereabouts his colleagues. Hiding through the logs, Captain sees the unexpected arrival of crows near his area. Suddenly, a gunshot is heard, which alarmed the sergeant and his men. After arguing, Rucker shot Stria in her stomach. Stria cries in agonizing pain as she suffers from the gunshot wound she received from him. Blood continuously spills from her stomach as Rucker escapes and leaves her. Walsh immediately finds Rucker struggling as if he is shaky and in pain. Then, Rucker's comrades track his location as they confront him with the emergency shot they heard. Walsh informs the sergeant about his knowledge. Rucker never tells them what he has done. Instead, he tells them about finding the airplane. The battalion strides its way to the missing plane. Sergeant Brewer asks Walsh about his close combat skills. The troop hears the cry of the crow but ignores it. Hexa finds out about Stria's death as she arrives and sees her unmoving dead body. The German prisoner looks at Rucker and smirks at him as if he knows what he did when he was gone for a while. The soldiers continue their journey as they walk along a muddy soil near the place where the plane has crashed. The soldiers retrieve written scriptures and books inside the cargo plane. They collect these materials to review for further information. After a while, snow starts to fall as it hinders the soldiers from doing their expedition correctly. Captain Rice suddenly feels indifferent as he sees rashes in his tummy and ignores them. Surprisingly, he starts attacking his comrades. Walsh uses his strength to eliminate him successfully. Sergeant Brewer asks Morgan to check Captain Rice. Morgan examines his body and sees ancient markings on his skin. There are also crow feathers inside his body. Slicing through his sewn-like stomach, they discover that his internal organs are missing. Pure black feathers are just inside his stomach. Sergeant Brewer then interrogates the German prisoner about his knowledge, and the latter mentions Hexa. Meanwhile, Major Johnson examines the written scriptures they retrieved. He tries deciphering the Russian, German, to American connections from all the mysterious deaths in the German forest. Using the magnifying glass, Major Johnson and his apprentice carefully read the writings in the book, where they find out it was all written in the old German language. While they are resting, Walsh asks Sergeant Brewer if he overlooked the unbelievable encounters they've had so far. Sergeant Brewer informs Walsh about their weird experience years ago. Everything started from deafening silence till he got used to it and had never considered something strange from then on. Unsatisfied with Sergeant Brewer's answer, he asks Rucker about what he sees regarding Stria and Hexa. Rucker suddenly pukes and acts differently, as he starts being aggressive and threatens to attack them. Instead, Rucker threatens to shoot himself, and the German prisoner uses this opportunity to escape. When the soldiers catch the German prisoner, he quickly tackles him on the ground to disarm him. However, the German prisoner is saved by Hexa, who suddenly appears on his back. She stabs his neck and collects the blood coming out of his throat. His comrade then discovers the dead body. The soldier calls for their troops' attention to report the incident. Sergeant Brewer picks up the gun to make the German prisoner confess his knowledge about the case. The prisoner tells them that they must ask Rucker instead of him. Without receiving a stable answer, the sergeant asks his soldier for broader coverage and searching operations to solve the case. Major Johnson, on the other hand, Major Johnson still tries to decipher the clues he has collected from the earlier operations. He then orders the radio operator to contact someone as he gives her the details on a piece of paper. Then, one of his men contacts him to deliver a message. The soldiers who are eating suddenly see their food transforming to becoming worms. One by one, they feel nauseous and start puking. The soldiers notice that Sergeant Brewer acts strangely, so they call him repeatedly till he wakes up from his hallucination. Sergeant Brewer then calls on the radio to call for an update about their mission. Their situation raises the tension when someone from their troop starts complaining, and the sergeant starts shooting them to warn them of their defiance. One of the soldiers has been captured by Hexa as she becomes aggressive and targets him. She uses her witchcraft to invade his body and manipulate his movements. Minutes later, sudden attacks from guns and bomb explosions happen in the Black Forest. The soldiers start to panic with the sudden attack they receive from someone who hides nearby. Together with Sergeant Brewer, the soldiers stay around a bonfire to eat and celebrate. Brewer asks his men to treat the German prisoner and forcefully feed him, and the soldier obliges. Unknowingly, Hexa watches them from behind. She uses her dark magic to deceive them into roasting a soldier as their food. The soldiers then start puking from great disgust. Then, an arrow stabs one of their comrades, and they are now chaotic as they try shooting around the area to identify who the intruder is. In the morning, Walsh discovers the unfortunate fate these soldiers have experienced. Upon further checking, they see that Rucker's body is missing. Walsh orders his men to stick together to outsmart and solve this problem. Fryer explains the telescope-like device that they have discovered to Major Johnson. He explains the specs that the telescope-like device contains, which may help them solve the case. There is an encounter between the Nazis and American soldiers. They began shooting and eliminating each other till some of them successfully escaped the shootout. Hexa deceives Korsky as she tries to portray them as his wife. Korsky slowly walks in her direction, and she immediately gets the grenade in his pocket. She slowly removes the safety lock ring of the grenade and inserts it on his ring finger. Then, she lets go of the pin and lets him get bombed, killing him instantly. His comrades tried shooting Hexa, but they couldn't capture her. Hexa takes this chance to collect more soldiers' blood that she may use for future purposes. Walsh hears random voices in the forest, and Sergeant Brewer attacks him from the back. As his opponent almost stabs him, someone saves him from death, and Freeman saves him. Meanwhile, Major Johnson finally decides to visit the Black Forest. He will finally bring himself to the battlefield. Walsh stops Freeman from moving because he will use the telescope device to locate their whereabouts. As Welsh puts his eyes on the lens, he sees the illusion spell is just around the area. It is hidden in a concealment spell. As he maneuvers the device, Walsh determines the direction they should take. Walsh and Freeman find the lighthouse where the witch gives the spell. The two invade the lighthouse to examine what's inside. They discover the flower from the Tree of Life, which might give them almost eternal life. Then, Freeman and Walsh fight with each other upon checking the witchcraft books on a ritual table. Later on, they are captured by Rucker. They see the remains of Stria as Rucker protects her body. Rucker believes that he will be healed once he helps Hexa revive Stria. Major Johnson arrives at the Black Forest and sees the cross marking that Walsh leaves in the tree. On the other hand, Hexa finally completes the ritual, and the Tree of Life finally releases flowers. Hexa picks the flower and puts the essence in Stria's mouth, and she is now revived. Walsh tries escaping when he gets the dog tag to cut the rope, hindering him from moving. Walsh is finally free when Rucker tries to retrieve them from the cell. Rucker targets Freeman, but Walsh fights back. Stria helps Rucker to kill their prisoners. Major Johnson arrives and saves Walsh from his death. He showers them with gunshots to overthrow their enemies. Major Johnson orders Walsh to collect the flowers and decides to leave and examine the place. Stria enters the room where Johnson and Walsh hides, and they wear their gas mask before throwing the chemical that will help them burn the place. Johnson dies in the encounter, but Walsh successfully turns Stria down. Walsh immediately burns the books in the area before he finally leaves the lighthouse. The movie ends when Walsh escapes the lighthouse. However, German Nazi soldiers arrive at the German Black Forest and see someone lying on the ground. The general removes the gas mask that the soldier wears. It then reveals that it is Stria. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for upcoming videos.